Okay, welcome to the On Your Side podcast. I'm Gary Harper.
And I'm Susan Campbell.
How was the trip in today, Susan?
Mine's always easy.
Is it?
Until I drive at 5:15 in the morning.
This is true. Can I get something off my chest?
Go at it.
All right. This is kind of like, I love doing the podcast because I have a chance to vent. So I'm going to talk.
I'm happy to be your unpaid therapist.
Thank you. There's a lot. Well, today we're doing something on vehicle recalls. We're going to talk about that in a minute, but I have to talk about motorcyclists. Okay.
Oh no, I know where this is going.
You know where we're going with this, right?
I do.
How do I feel about motorcyclists here in Arizona splitting lanes?
Not great.
It's illegal. You cannot do that unless you're at a stopped red light and all the cars are stopped. Yet all these motorcyclists, and I have a better word for them, but I won't say it. But
don't do that. We don't have the bleep ready.
They are splitting lanes going to and from work.
Did it happen to you today?
It happened to me yesterday. Again, it happens to me every day.
They know your car. This guy doesn't like us. Let's go drive him crazy.
And I have specialized plates, so they probably remember me too. No, but all these guys, they're all different because they're all different bikes. They got the sport bikes, and then
it feels dangerous. I know you're joking a little bit about venting, but it does feel dangerous when you're on the road and you're going so fast. I mean, the Arizona highways, people drive really fast on them.
Right. Well, and how many times have people tried to get over in the lane, not seeing the motorcycle coming up in an area where they're not supposed to be to begin with?
Because it happens in a split second, yeah.
It does. And then, even if it's just a little minor, they damage your car.
Terrifying stuff, yeah.
Okay.
Do you feel okay?
I feel better now.
Do I need to take your blood pressure to proceed?
No. But Colin, our producer, he says I need therapy about this because I feel so strongly about it. But I do. It just angers me. Okay, but you know what?
When Gary Harper runs for elected office, that is his one and only platform.
Well, no, there's actually
down.
Motorcycles is at the top of the list, and also cell phones on the road.
Boy. Yeah, that one drives me bonkers.
Drives me nuts. They're driving 10 miles under the speed limit, yet they have enough time to put their phone to their ear and just have this conversation like they're in the living room.
The thing that bothers me more is when you drive past somebody and their cell phone is like right in front of their eyeballs and they're texting.
Yeah.
No hands on the wheel, no nothing.
Oh, that's
You're like,
safe.
I have my family in the car with me. What are you doing?
Yeah. You're not one of those that have the baby on board sticker, do you?
No, I'm not. No bumper stickers, no nothing.
Stay away from me.
No, none of that. The only thing that I have on my car that identifies anything about me is a Syracuse license plate bracket.
Yes, all right, Syracuse.
Got to support my team.
I'm with you on that. There you go. Good for you. Are they in the bracket this time?
No.
No? Okay. Well, I shouldn't have asked that then. Well, my team, Texas Tech, we just lost last night, so.
You're out.
Yeah, I'm out. One and done. Anyway, hey, listen, we're talking about vehicle recalls today, and it's a very important issue because some people don't pay attention to them. They don't have time to take it into the dealer for whatever reason. Sometimes parts aren't available. That's causing a problem. And so today we're talking to Mike Lavigne. He's with Carfax, and Carfax just released some really disturbing data with what's called park outside recalls on a lot of different cars. Mike, how are you today?
I'm doing good, Gary and Susan. Great to be here. My pulse rate has spiked a little bit, though, talking about lane splitting. So you'll have to give me a second to come down off of that.
Okay. Well, first of all, where are you, Mike? What state?
So Centerville, Virginia, in what I thought was the national home for lane splitting, here in the national capital region of the greater Washington, D.C. area.
So you can teach Gary a thing or two about dealing with it, maybe.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about dealing with it, but certainly seeing it every day and getting your heart in your throat as you're trying to change lanes and someone gets a little too close for comfort to your car. Yeah, absolutely.
Terrifying stuff.
So is it legal in lane splitting? We're getting off topic here real quick. Is it legal there?
I don't think so.
But they sure do like doing it.
I've seen some of our friends in the Virginia State Troopers go right after people like that before, which brings me no small bit of joy. Yeah. I think I'm on Team Gary on this one.
Yes, thank you very much, Mike. Appreciate that. Hey, listen, we're talking about these recalls that Carfax kind of uncovered, these park outside recalls. First of all, tell our listeners, what are these park outside recalls? What are they about?
Sure. So one very key word, and that's fire. So a park outside recall is issued by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration because the manufacturer has notified the government about a potential risk of fire. And what makes this sort of even more insidious, scary, if you will, is the fact that these fires can start without any outside interaction with the vehicle. So, for example, if you remember some of the Hyundai and Kia recalls from last year, there was one set of recalls that centered around the leak of an anti-lock brake fluid. Well, that leak, that very small leak, could lead to a short, and then in turn, that short was a risk of fire. So until the fix was released for these specific makes, models, and years, the NHTSA recommended that those vehicles be parked out of doors, away from structures, to mitigate any risk of fire, both in the vehicle or spreading from the vehicle to a structure.
You know, Gary and I report on recalls when they pop up, but it is very hard to keep track of how often these recalls are happening or how many vehicles are involved. That's what you kind of did. You compiled this data and you found a really kind of giant spike in these very serious recalls. What are the numbers? What are we actually looking at?
Well, the jump in numbers has a lot to do with the cumulative effect of more and more recalls coming out over time without fixes being out on the street for the first couple of recalls that were announced. So, for example, going back to the Hyundai and Kia recalls from earlier last year, there are certain models that still don't have a fix and may not have a fix until next month. So what it really comes down to is, you know, six different models from one or two manufacturers. You put those together and you're into the high hundreds of thousands of vehicles. Now add one more manufacturer and two or three more models with 2 or 3 years on top of that. And now that's where you start to see this incredible creep from, you know, in the lower millions into about 3.7, which is where we stand nationwide right now.
I aired a news report recently on a Valley viewer who had a car and he had a park outside recall, which he was happy to, you know, oblige with because he doesn't want his garage and his house catching on fire. But the recall, according to his dealer, there would not be a part ready. It was for some crazy amount of time, like maybe 18 months or 2 years or something like that. And he found it weird to ask him to park outside for up to 2 years while they make this part. We were able to help him because we got him to another dealer who actually had the part. But is that an ongoing problem where people have to park outside and they have to wait for a part for, say, 2 or 3 years or whatever it might be?
Well, I don't know about that length of time, but I do know that drivers are spending a good chunk of time on depending on the manufacturer, they're waiting for fixes. And what we're seeing over time is that you know, those consumers are going to vote with their pocketbook. The next time when it comes time to trade that vehicle or to upgrade it or whatever, they may be a little more hesitant to go with that same manufacturer, the same model, if they know that if a recall hits, they could have to sit for a while to wait for that fix.
Those are the people who actually know about the recalls. You know, in your example that you just brought up, that is a person who was paying attention to the mail when it came in. But we know there are also a ton of people who just don't realize that their car has been recalled. Even a serious recall like this that could impact, you know, their very real safety at home with a fire. Walk me through what are some of the challenges of people being aware of recalls and the awareness piece here, what we all need to do as drivers?
Yes, Susan, that's one of the worst parts about this is being on the road and not really knowing that your vehicle is subject to one of these recalls. So there's a couple of different issues at play here. The first is that there are laws that say that the transmission of notification has to happen via U.S. mail. Now, there's a couple of different ways that this happens. Data that comes from DMVs and registration information is supposed to get to the current owner of the vehicle. That can sometimes be hit or miss depending on whether or not the vehicle has recently been sold or bought. Just briefly, used cars are staying on the road longer than ever before. The average age of a used car in America right now is about 12 years old. And depending on which state you're in across the country, there's the number of owners can range from 2 to 3 to sometimes 6 for each of these vehicles. So just put yourself in the position of being, owner number 4 or 5, and you've owned the vehicle for a short period of time, and there's an open recall, but the notification went to the previous owner. That happened to me not too long ago. About 2 or 3 weeks ago, I got a recall notice in the mail for a vehicle I sold 3 months ago. So it's really hard to keep track of that. But, just from the Carfax perspective, we've got 37 million users right now in our free car care app, free to download from any of the app stores. If you log in with your vehicle identification number or plate number, you'll find out right away whether or not your car is subject to an open recall. And then if any recalls are subsequently issued by the manufacturer through NHTSA, you'll automatically get a notification and be told basically what to do and when to do it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Where's that at again? Where can
you could go to Carfax.com and get the link to Car Care, or just go to the iOS App Store or Google Play to find it for your phone.
Hey, let's break down the numbers. You had indicated 3.7 million cars are on the road with park outside recalls. That's a lot of cars. I think it's a huge jump, about 1.5 million more since last year, Carfax reported. What state is the biggest violator of that? I have an idea, but tell us.
Well, Gary, it's hard to call them a violator, but if you just look at populations, the number one runaway here is California. The bottom line is there's a huge number of cars on the road right now, more than ever before, frankly. And cars are more technologically advanced than they've ever been. And with every new piece of technology and every bell and whistle that gets added year over year to different models, that introduces one more opportunity for something to go wrong. And as I mentioned before, cars are staying on the road for a lot longer. So that's a lot longer for drivers and consumers to make reports to manufacturers about things that they see wrong with the vehicle. It is kind of a big jump in these types of recalls, but I look at this as sort of an act of responsibility by manufacturers to continue to push out these recall notifications. If you look at the 5 most recent manufacturers that have issued these types of park outside recalls, these aren't brand new vehicles. These go back to model year 13 and 14. So this is just a good responsible act by these manufacturers to make sure people are paying attention and that they know to go get their cars taken care of.
And speaking of getting the cars taken care of, I think this is one of those things that sometimes people don't realize. It is always a free fix. When you are getting a recall repaired, you do not have to pay. You don't have to go back to the same dealership where you purchased the vehicle. Any dealership can handle this for you, and you have that kind of freedom to make sure you can make it happen for yourself on your own timeline. You can schedule an appointment with dealership A or B or C, wherever they can fit you in.
Yeah, and that's a good point.
Well, Susan, I will say you're absolutely right about that. But one thing that isn't factored in is the cost of time. So frankly, there's a lot of people that will either put off getting a recall repaired because they don't have the time to take it in, or they can't get away from work, or life gets in the way, or, the list goes on and on. But, when you start talking about, park outside recalls, particularly if there's a fix available, or do not drive recalls, where there's a very serious risk of something causing grievous injury or death associated with driving the vehicle. Things like that, that isn't in the life gets in the way category. Those are ones that you've got to get addressed immediately.
Hey, Mike, I'm going to paint you into a corner here, and
I'm ready.
I want to see what manufacturer has the most park outside recalls.
Well, so the ones that are active right now, it's a Hyundai and Kia. There's a total of 25 models and several model years inside those categories where the park outside recall is still in effect without a fix being available. And as I said, there's a number of reasons that go into why a fix is not available. Or why a dealership can't take care of the fix immediately. Now, I will say that park outside is a lot less inconvenient than, say, for example, a do not drive recall, where there is no fix, but do not drive it because there is a serious risk of death or injury. Park outside is an inconvenience, but it's a necessary inconvenience because, frankly, I would rather see my Ford Explorer outside as a target for bird poop than park it in the garage and keep it safe and clean and run the risk of burning my house down.
Yeah, right.
And when we're talking about these park outside recalls, this is for a variety of different issues. You mentioned one
Right.
at the beginning of the podcast, but it's not just one particular problem that's plaguing all of these different vehicles. These can be caused by a lot of different issues that have popped up in
Not just
vehicles.
leaky brake fluid.
Right. So, for example, Jeep Cherokee had a relatively recent recall for the liftgate motor and a battery sensor issue in the Lincoln MKC. So, again, the more technology that goes into a vehicle, the more potential there is for these type of small failures. It's just when the small failures can, in a chain of events, lead to a serious issue like a fire. That's when your eyeballs should get big, and you should pay very close attention when you get one of those recall notifications.
Hey, Mike, what do you think about this? Are manufacturers getting just a little bit more with shoddy workmanship, or is these recalls, are they just more sensitive now than they were before, causing an increase in these recalls?
Well, I don't think it's the craftsmanship. I think it's more, there are more things to pay attention to. You have vehicles that stay on the road much, much longer. You have, frankly, a consumer base that pays very close attention to this purchase they made, which is very likely the second largest purchase they make, at any point. And so if, the left blinker doesn't turn on every time you make the blinker go, or the hazard lights don't function when you push the button, they complain to the manufacturer. The manufacturer does the responsible thing when they track this over time and do analysis and see that, hey, this is a systemic issue. This isn't just Mike can't figure out how to push the button the right way. They issue the recall. And that kind of corporate responsibility is actually, that's something we should be applauding in this day and age when we see it not happen in so many other places.
One of the complaints that I hear from different viewers and consumers who end up with a recall, a serious one, the do not drive or the park outside, is, okay, I have this investment. I still have to pay my bills on it. I have to pay the car payment, and I'm being inconvenienced. Shouldn't the dealer or shouldn't the manufacturer give me a loaner car to get me through this?
Yeah.
Or send me to a rental car agency so I can get a safer vehicle to use? And we know that does not happen. And that is one of those consumer frustrations of trying to balance the safety and getting it fixed. And if there's not a recall repair, you're kind of stuck for a little bit.
The consumer is like, hey, look, it's not my fault. I trusted in your brand, and now you're making me park outside or not drive at all. So, yeah, it's a good point. Where do EVs fall into this? Big problem with recalls with EVs?
So in the park outside recall list, I'm not seeing any EVs. I see a couple of hybrids, but this is mostly for gasoline engines.
All right.
Fascinating.
Yeah, it is. Hey, Mike, great talking to you, and thank you for being on the On Your Side podcast. If people want to find out more about you or Carfax, just throw out some websites or anything you want people to go to.
Yeah, Carfax.com. You can run the gamut there. You can see new cars, used cars, and as well as download the Car Care app, which not only will let you know if you're subject to an open recall, but helps you keep up to date on your maintenance, on your inspections, on your registration, the kind of things that help you maintain the long-term value of your car. So when you go to trade it in, you get top value for it.
Good information. Thanks so much for being on the On Your Side podcast, and we'll have you on again, okay?
Hey, I appreciate it, Gary and Susan. Take care.
The On Your Side podcast is produced by Brad Denny. Our audio engineer and editor is Todd Martin. Segment producer is Colin Stanton. And I'm Gary Harper.
And I'm Susan Campbell. If you have a problem you can't resolve, maybe we can. Send us a message through azfamily.com or our AZ Family mobile app. Look for the On Your Side section and leave us a message. Thanks so much for listening to the On Your Side podcast. And if you like it, leave us a review. We'll see you next week.
On Your Side is on Good Morning Arizona every weekday morning at 6:45 and 7 o'clock, and every weekday evening on Good Evening Arizona at 4 and 5 o'clock. You can also catch it on Arizona's Family News at 9 on 3TV every weeknight.